Justin, do I still have you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome everyone, and this is Eric Welch calling in from one of the few beautiful weekends we have in Wisconsin in an entire calendar year, and we're excited to be here. We're going to have some fun today. This is going to kind of be a very different thing for me to do for sure, and maybe some new information for a lot of you who may have been around Zango for a while. We've got a very exciting topic and an exciting guest with me today. We're going to have Justin Prince with us today. He's a new rising star on Tommy Johnson's team out in Utah, and he's just got some great insights on the network marketing industry to share with us today. Tommy Johnson was also going to be with us, but he had a family conflict come up, and that's part of the beauty of our business is that we're able to live our life according to priorities, and we said, well, hey, go for it and take care of what you have to take care of. Justin and I are going to have some fun without you then. And so we're going to get into it today. We're going to go through a couple things. If you're brand new to the Zango story, this is going to be pretty fast-paced, a lot of content. You probably want to take some notes. You probably want to sit back and buckle in tight, and we'll kind of get going here. Justin and I just got to know each other over the last couple of months and really hit it off, and I was just fascinated with his story, and you'll hear more about that in a minute. My story is, you may have seen a few pictures around. I've got 5 little kids. I've got quite the little tribe going here in Wisconsin, and we were just having a blast. Zango's completely changed our life in a matter of 3 short years, and we're having so much fun, and now learning what I'm learning now and seeing what's happening in front of us, it's just getting more exciting all the time, and especially when you digest what we're about to talk to today, you'll probably start losing sleep even more than you already are, just like I am. So our story is we started this kind of through the back door. We had never really had any success in network marketing, and I would say my understanding of network marketing was a fairly unsophisticated one when it came to analyzing what to look for in a company. The reason I say that is because it's a very stark contrast to Justin Prince. Here's a picture of his wife, Missy, and himself. They live out in Lehi, Utah, and considering he's younger than me, he's got decades more of astute analysis ability in the realm of network marketing, and you'll clearly hear that today as we talk a little bit. But Justin, why don't you just say hi to everyone quick?
Hey, welcome from all over the country. Great to chat with you today, and appreciate your time and attention.
Well, we'll get into more of Justin's story, and you'll hear some of his insights in a minute. We got a lot of content to go through. We want to kind of make this short and just kind of get through the real meat of the issue. So I just want to jump into it, and we'll come back to Justin's going to get back to some things in a minute. What we're talking about today is timing. Timing is a lot of things, and I'm going to go through a couple different areas of timing that we all need to recognize. And a lot of you may already be in, you're involved with Zango, and you are, you're in the clear vehicle that we're going to be talking about here. But one of Justin and I purposes for the call today is to help you recognize the fact that what you're in truly has a uniqueness and timing, and hopefully that'll help you to be encouraged and put your head down and run harder than you ever have in the next 24 to 36 months, and to not look at the future through the lens of the past. None of us, our business ever grows as fast as we want, but the game is about to change in the realm of Zango, and you also need to have the peace of mind knowing that you're playing in, there's so many factors working in our favor, as we're going to see here, that we just wanted to encourage people and equip people to know how to explain this and to be able to portray this to people as best they can. This is something that was a report in 2006 that you're seeing there. Thomas Donahue, President and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they're talking about this trend towards the future in workplace. So one of the trends that we're going to talk about today is the trend towards home-based business, the trend towards entrepreneurialism instead of jobs. Here's the quote: "Workers of the future have turned away from traditional employment and schedules in favor of broad-range alternatives." Well, why? Well, it's clear that millions of Americans are seeking viable business opportunities because they want to be their own boss and live a life of balance and live according to their own rules instead of what someone else is handing them. Here you have some statistics out there from different organizations. Gallup did a poll recently, and their conclusion was 61% of Americans now say they prefer to be their own boss. Decipher, another group, 72% of Americans now say they would rather work for themselves than for another company, and 67% think about quitting their jobs regularly or constantly. And if I could see a raise of hands on the phone, I'm sure several of you will be raising your hand to the fact that you often think about quitting your job regularly or constantly. U.S. Small Business Administration, 1 out of 8 U.S. households already includes a home-based business. So, see, the difference here in the trend is that back in the 70s, 80s, etc., if you couldn't make it in the corporate world, right, like back then the goal was to go work for Big Blue, IBM, or something like that, and your future was secure. Well, obviously the world's drastically changed in the last 20-some years, but now, so back then, if you couldn't hack it in the corporate world, you did something on your own. Now, if you can't make it at home, you're forced to go work for the corporate world. It's the tables have turned, truly, and it's a lot of fun because there's a lot of things available to us now that you couldn't have back in the 80s and 90s. So we have the economy going in our favor as well. We got this recession thing going on, and $5 a gallon of gas on its way, apparently, and all kinds of crazy things going on. Well, Fortune magazine ran an article recently, and they said one of their quotes about the modern-day workforce is, forget the paycheck, your W-2 days are over, it's a 1099 world now. Meaning you better be taking care of your own future, right? You better take things into your own hands because it's a little scary to leave it in the hands of someone else with all the corporate corruption and globalization and, you know, all the things that are going on, totally out of your own control. Fortune magazine also referred to our industry, network marketing, as the best-kept secret in the business world. Direct sales, 94% growth in 10 years, $30 billion U.S., $100 billion worldwide. And here's the kicker, is financial experts say it's a recession-proof industry. And we'll probably come back to this a little bit, but if you look at the trends of over the last 30, 40, 50 years, every time there's a recession and a downturn in the economy in traditional business, the home-based business industry rises because people decide it's time for them to take matters into their own hands. So it's an absolute perfect timing for us from the economy standpoint. You know, millions of people are losing their houses. You have crazy numbers of foreclosures, and it's not predicted to get any better anytime soon. Well, my guess is an extra $500, $700, $800, $900 a month would drastically turn around the vast majority of these millions of foreclosures. And that's what we have. You know, we'd certainly have something that is a viable option in a fairly short period of time. People can work and do something like that to avert disaster. So everyone's got preconceived ideas of what they think they know about network marketing. It's usually based on some pretty unsophisticated theories and about 5 minutes of analysis because someone said something once. But we have to ask a question, what do these people know that most people don't, right? Warren Buffett, he's rich, like 65 billion rich, richest person on the earth today. He did it through investing. Well, if you do it through investing, you probably know how to spot future trends and move ahead of where everyone else is moving before they get there. And he bought Pampered Chef a few years back, and he later referred to it as one of the best investments he ever made. He owns, in part or in full, several network marketing companies. You know, I call that a clue because people like that don't just, he didn't buy Pampered Chef because they have nice baking stones, right? That's not the type of investor, the astute level of analysis he does. Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki wrote a book about 2 years ago, Why We Want You to Be Rich, and they're talking about the elimination of the middle class in America, like how it's already disappeared in most of the world. And in their entire book, the only business model that they talk about recommending that people utilize to take the path they're suggesting is the network marketing business model. Now, neither of these men made their fortunes in network marketing, but upon analysis of it, they figured out that the industry's grown up, and it's a very valuable and very critical type of business model in today's world. So here's an interesting one. David Bach, author of several bestsellers and been on Oprah 7-8 times, and Smart Women Finish Rich and Start Late, Finish Rich, etc. I'll read this one to you because this is interesting, because this is kind of where a lot of people start, but he dug a little deeper and he found out the whole story. He says, I went into my research on network marketing with a no-way attitude, avoided this profession like a plague, but it ended up in devoting an entire chapter to it. In Start Late, Finish Rich, I believe it's chapter 27. Network marketing is a vehicle where you can make a little extra money with that, buy your freedom. Most of us aren't doing what we're put here to do, right? I mean, you don't have a whole long list of people in your life that they would stand up and say, I think I'm doing exactly what I was put here to do. Most of us get stuck kind of doing whatever we have to do, right? Because we kind of get into that American debt cycle, and we just got to pay the bills, and you got to do what you got to do, and then 20, 30 years goes by, and you wonder what happened. So here it says most of us, aren't doing what we're supposed to do, but how do you fix it? Well, you need to find a reputable company, one you can trust, believe in, and get passionate about. Well, I think that's partly what we're going to talk about here. The rest of the conversation is you're already in one that is pretty easy to see that, but all indicators and all arrows are pointing to not only is it the one that you're probably in currently or thinking about coming in if you're listening to this call, but it's clearly one that you should be able to encourage other people that, this is the time, this is the one. Salt Lake Tribune read an article a while back. Here's a couple interesting comments. And think about what this means when they would pose this question. They said, is Zango the next Google? What did Google do? Google came into the internet space. They weren't the first one in their particular market, but they came in and did it different, did it better, and now they control 65% of the internet search function and all the different areas they occupy. 65% is dominated by them. Well, just to give you a perspective, over 80% of the mangosteen market is controlled by Zango on a worldwide basis in a category they created. They also said the iPod of the wellness revolution. Well, how big of a deal would that be? Well, we'll come back to this later, but iPod completely revolutionized the music industry. Right? New idea, never before done, came in. Now everybody's forced to play the game, just like iPod has created. So pretty interesting stuff, the fastest growing health and wellness company in the world, et cetera. So these are the types of things that the outside business world is looking at our company saying, wow, there's something going on here. And the only way they can think to describe an analysis of what's happening here is to compare it to companies like Google and iPod. Pretty amazing. So within the realm of network marketing, there's a lot of years, 60-plus year industry and dozens of companies, and we're going to get into some meaty stuff here that you may never have heard before, but Nutrition Business Journal is an independent source. They rank all the companies out there in domestic sales, and here Zango came along in his fourth year with only one product in 4 short years, climbed the list and overcame companies that had a 20-plus year head start, right? We're only behind 3 companies in domestic sales, Avon, Amway, Mary Kay, combined years in business of 200 years. Okay, I call this never before, never again. Just on that chart alone, you should be able to think, I don't want to miss this one. I want to make sure I get my piece of this as this story unfolds. But what most people don't realize is that's an indicator that we're just at the beginning of something far greater than people probably realized, and Justin's going to enlighten us to that in a minute. One more thing I want to get into here quick is Paul Zane Pilsner. So we have the trend of home-based business. We have the trend of network marketing coming of age and getting a lot of respect and accolades from places that never got before until recent history. But in addition to that, we have the rise of the baby boomers and the wellness revolution and the awareness of health and the willingness to spend money on health. And Paul Zane Pilsner's got this best-selling book, The Wellness Revolution. And, you can read some of that, but basically we're looking at an industry that barely existed, and now it's on track to be a $1 trillion industry. And basically network marketing is the prime driver within that is going to be driving that. It's a combination of the wellness, the home-based business boom through network marketing, and the wellness industry is what he's talking about. He's also got a book out called The Next Millionaires, and talking about how there's going to be 10 million new millionaires created through that combination of the home-based business entrepreneurial movement and the wellness revolution combining. So what happened so far, right? Let's look a little bit at the past because it could be a little bit of an indicator of the future. One of the great comments I heard Justin say a while back is he said, Henry Ford said you can't build a reputation based on what you're going to do. You have to look at what you've already accomplished. Well, Zango created a new idea in supplementation based on the mangosteen fruit, and that's, if you do your due diligence there, you'll find that that's one of the most amazing introductions of a new idea in health and wellness in 20, 30 years. They also created the fastest growing health supplement in the world, fastest growing network marketing company in industry history, did $1 billion in sales in their first 5 years. Pretty amazing, just that takes a while just to soak that in, but we're going to keep going because you may have heard some of that before, but I want to put that in context of what that means and for us now and into the near future. I want to give you a very fast snapshot on why that's happened, what drives that, what's the uniqueness about this story. Let's talk about the medical marketplace timing, okay? The wellness timing from the standpoint of the sickness industry and medical expertise in what they're saying. Well, it turns out mangosteen is a natural anti-inflammatory. As luck would have it, gamma mangosteen inhibits COX-2 in different studies, similar to how a COX-2 drug would. Okay, so similar action in the body, however, completely natural, no side effects, no downside, no risk-benefit, analysis needed. Well, why is that a big deal? Well, we have $50 billion anti-inflammatory drug market that's growing like crazy. People are very motivated to not have to use those dangerous prescriptions if they had an option, right? And here you have silent inflammation being earmarked as pretty much the root cause of most of the things that are destroying people's lives all around us every day. Here's Beck Time Magazine 2004. This is Newsweek Magazine 2005, Summer of 05 special edition. They're talking about inflammation being the root cause of heart disease. Well, that's a pretty big deal considering half of everyone you know, love, and care about is going to be affected by heart disease, right? That'd be a pretty big ticket item right there if you had a natural anti-inflammatory that you could take every day to prevent disaster. But look at these medical breakthrough things here. Look at the dates that are coming up on this next slide. June 11th, brain inflammation found in autism. That's 1 in every 150 kids in America suffering from autism. Diabetes, 8 out of every 100 Americans are diagnosed with diabetes. Another 5 to 7% are estimated to have it and don't even know it yet. Well, type 2 diabetes, inflammation, not obesity, cause of insulin resistance. Again, how big of a deal would it be to bring to market a fruit that its primary is that it's a super powerful anti-inflammatory that's natural? That's November of 07. Here you have anti-inflammatory drug may prevent type 2 diabetes, January of 2008. Pretty cutting-edge stuff, right? So the timing of every aspect you could want for something like this is right at our fingertips. It's happening right now, right in front of us. Let's go to the subject of cancer. Cutting inflammation could cut cancer risk, April of 2007, Mayo Clinic, 2 new studies. There's dozens of studies like these. I'm just pulling out a few. COX-2 inhibitors in prostate cancer, October 2007. Talking about prevention and delay of the spread of cancer. 1 every 6 men in America getting prostate cancer. Not good odds, not good Russian roulette to play, if you ask me. 1 every 9 women in America getting breast cancer. Look at this one, March 7th, 2008. Pretty timely. Aspirin may reduce risk of breast cancer by 20%, but if you read this small print, they're nervous and they say, but we're still not clear if the long-term treatment benefits would outweigh the risk because there is no such thing as a safe anti-inflammatory drug. They all do damage. It's just a matter of how much and when. So now I want to bring this up to speed. So that's what got us here, and it's an indicator of where things might be able to go. But I want to bring in Justin because Justin came in to this from a different side of the world where I'm coming from. Is he came at this, he left a different company for several reasons, and he did a pretty high-level analysis of several companies and over a period of time and did his analysis, and I thought he could share a little bit of some of his thoughts and process he went through during that to pick Zengo and why Zengo, why now. So, Justin, I have up right now that slide. By the way, Justin was working so hard this morning doing training meetings all over the place, he's not even able to be at a computer, so I'm going to tell him where we're at here on the slides. I'm on the slide that shows the logos of the billion-dollar industry successes, just so you know where we're starting from here. But why don't you just kind of back up for a second, and you came into the Zengo story, and what were you seeing, and what were you looking at? What are the types of questions you're asking when you look at something like this?
Well, Eric, great to be on your webinar with you, and I'm right here with you on my printout, so I'm good to go. But folks, once again, huge kudos to you for taking time out of your Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, depending on where time zone you might be in, and taking time to educate yourself and to invest in yourself and invest in your business. And hopefully some of the insights that we'll share here will be things that will help to, cause you to move forward in your own business and help others to move forward in theirs. The best definition of sales I've ever heard is helping others make decisions that will benefit their lives. And that's hopefully some of the information we'll get today. We can help others make decisions that will benefit their lives. I was in the industry. I was Zengo's competition, or they are my competition. And I'll tell you just a brief snapshot. I'm glad I'm not there anymore. I was the number 3 earner and the national spokesperson for my prior company. And when I ultimately left that company, we were having some serious issues. And I interviewed about 9 different companies. And ultimately, I was looking for this kind of a fairy tale version of a company, kind of the holy grail of network marketing is what we're all ultimately searching for. And that is, all things being equal, you're going to invest 3 years or 5 years into a company. You're going to wear your heart on your sleeve. You're going to put your passion behind a company, behind a product, behind a movement. All things being equal, you'd probably rather that company didn't go out of business in 3 or 4 years. You'd probably rather that in 60 years your grandkids and great-grandkids were cashing checks that from the hard work and the effort and the good things that you had established years earlier. And that doesn't happen exclusively in these billion-dollar companies, but almost exclusively for 2 reasons. One is they're in business 40 years later, 50 years later. And the second reason is these companies have created such stories that they still attract high-quality, high-level people. They have, in most cases, phenomenal products that still attract great people to come in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years later and to continue to build wonderful businesses, which ultimately would serve to benefit you for being one of the pioneers that rolled those companies out. Now, as I was analyzing these different companies and asking the questions, ultimately, if you're going to get into business, whether you want to be a painter or a plumber or in real estate or restaurants or mortgages, whatever business you want to decide to do, business is hard enough all by itself. That's why most folks, it's easier for them to be an employee. And so if you're going to jump in the river of business, you want to swim downstream. You want to swim with the currents as opposed to against them. And if there's holes in your business plan, let me give you an example, just a couple thoughts. A startup company has a 96% chance of not being in business in 3 years. That is a glaring weakness of joining a startup company. A company that has a binary pay plan, and those either familiar with the industry and familiar with pay plans know what I'm talking about. Those that aren't, don't worry about all the terminology. But basically, a binary pay plan, there's only been 2 companies in the history of the industry that have lasted over 10 years with a binary. So once again, all things being equal, you're going to invest 3 or 4 or 5 years to build one of these things. Why would you stack the deck against you with only 2 companies that out of the thousands that have tried to do a binary? Why would you stack the deck against you? A travel or a service company. The travel companies, there's been, one that's lasted over 10 years. And of all of the 9 different billion-dollar companies in our industry, there's only been 1 service-based company. It's hard for people to get behind, emotionally attached to services because ultimately it's all about bottom line and price. So why would you stack the deck against yourself, as you're analyzing, your options in this industry, barring that you choose to do network marketing, as Eric laid out so well? Why would you stack the deck against you as opposed to for you? Now, if you look at 7 of the $9 billion companies, they're nutritional and or skincare companies. So what's the sweet spot in network marketing? Where does 54% of all money flow from network marketing, the $109 billion worldwide? Nutritional and skincare, personal care products. I mean, staggering numbers. If you're going to get into networking, you just follow the money. The other 23% comes from household things like Tupperware items, household items. So, the travels, the telecoms, those other, the startups, why would you stack the deck against you when business is hard enough all by itself? And so, Eric, as I was looking at these different companies, I ultimately wanted to find the company that had all of the components in place to be that next billion-dollar company, the corporate management, the compensation plan, the field leadership, the products, the movement, the branding, all of the timing, all of the elements that it took to be that next billion-dollar company because, 30 years from now, I want my little kids, my little boy, my little girl, cashing checks that Daddy built, 30 years earlier. And so that was kind of the original analysis, and I figured if I couldn't find that company, I was going to leave the industry and get back into traditional business.
So your conclusion was pretty much either I do Zengo or I just take my ball and go home.
Yeah, I called Tom Johnson one morning. Actually, he called me. I came out of the gym, and he called me and said, "Hey, this is about an 8-week process, literally a full-time process." And that was, the owners and the founders and the presidents and the CEOs and the top earners of these different companies. And I called Tom and I said, "Tom, if I decided to do network marketing," I said, "there's only one option." And we're both quiet on the phone. And he says, "What's that?" And I said, "It's Zengo." And he said, "That's very powerful," because he knew the kind of research that I'd been doing. And in network marketing, I truly believe, I sat down with a gal the other day that's a top earner has been a top earner in a couple companies. Her dad was a major player in Herbalife and Amway years ago. And I said to her, there's only one option in the industry right now. And she stopped me and she goes, "You're telling me Zengo's the only, the best and only option in the industry?" And I leaned forward and I said, "Absolutely, yes." And she joined with us, and so did her dad. So it's interesting when when people know what they're looking for. There's a lot of hype in marketing and there's a lot of projections. But man, like Henry Ford says, you cannot build a reputation on what you're going to do. You build it on what you've done. And you look at where this thing's been, and then let me just throw in one idea here, if I could, Eric, about top earners. A lot of times people will say things like, if you don't get in early, you're not going to make any money. If you look at the history of these companies, the industry, there's almost across the board, there's a window where these top earners come in. Now, let me preface this by saying that you better be in early in about 96% of companies, because they only last 2 or 3 years. So if you're not there in the first few months, you're toast. But companies that last 30, 40, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the top earners typically come in typically between years 5 to 12. You look at Amway. Dexter Yeager came in the 4th year. Bill Britt the 7th year. You look at Nu Skin. They're one of their kind of the icon of Nu Skin nowadays, and one of their top earners, top 5 earners, is Nathan Ricks, kind of the icon over there. Nathan came in 89 when Nu Skin was founded in 84. You look at Robert Dean from Tisha Noni Juice. Robert came in the 7th year. The number 2 earner came in the 7th year. You look at the number 1 earner of Prepaid Legal, 20th year. Number 1 earner of Mary Kay, 7th year. These established, well-positioned companies, they're top earners, and I could go on, but the top earners all came in these windows where the company was established, it was mature, and what those next generation people did is, man, they took those from $200 million companies to 1.2, 2.4, $2.7 billion companies, and built legacy positions for themselves and for their kids and grandkids. And those of you that are listening, this is the window that we're coming into right now with Zengo.
So, Justin, I want to back up to that for a second. I think a lot of people, if you're around the industry for long enough, because we see it even with Zengo. I mean, I was seeing this 2 years ago when Zengo was 3 years old. People would say phrases like, if you missed Zengo, come join our new, whatever thing that they were coming out with. And there's kind of like this intoxicating buzz that as if, only the people that are in the first 12 to 24 months of a company are the ones that make the money. So I think it's important for us that are already involved to realize when people say things like the top earner in Zengo hasn't even signed an application yet, that's based on industry history. That's not just based on marketing speak. There's some real substance to that so if you had to look at what would be your analysis for why do things go so much better and so much faster and easier for people who are really hitting the ground running in phase 2, like Zengo's entering right now, versus phase 1? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, you always have to separate fact from opinion in business. I can tell you that the sun's going to come up in the west tomorrow with all the energy and, state it like a fact, but the reality is it's not a fact, it's an opinion, and it's a false opinion, and the sun's going to come up in the east just like it always has. And business is very consistent. People say you got to get in early. I don't know where that came from for sure, that whole idea. I think part of the reasons that the infrastructure has been laid, the track record's been laid, the systems are in place, the tools are in place, the products or services are proven. The company, the IT, the shipping, all of that's all proven. A lot of the typical, low growth kills company, but typically it's slow growth or it's high growth that kills companies. Just as Zengo's been able to avoid going out of business with the unbelievably high growth that they've built has been pretty staggering. They have an unbelievable infrastructure, $1 billion infrastructure, to where this company is poised in the next, few years here to double and to triple, and they are able to contain that growth. And so the infrastructure's in place, the stories are in place, people get past their skepticism and cynicism and can move forward with these companies that are a little bit more established, a little more seasoned, and that's when people make absolute legacy fortunes.
And so the reason that I thought, this is important to talk about, because we need to be able to explain this, but it's also something I think everyone on the phone as a distributor needs to recalibrate your expectations and recalibrate your thought process. None of our businesses has ever grown at the pace we want it to, but don't let the pace at which something's happened. See, Zango's better. Zango's changing. We have new product lines. You're better. Your systems are better. Your upline's better. Your downline's better. Everything's different today than it was 3 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. So don't keep things in the same gear as you move forward, because Zango's, this is over. I mean, the convention theme is overdrive, and that's a good thing for us to probably remember, is that, there's a couple notches higher on your gear ratio that you can shift into if you choose to, and the company's certainly going to be there to provide the gasoline for it. So that's partly why I thought it'd be important to talk about this, because we need to recognize the time is now. If there ever is a time that's better than another in a long-term company like Zango, we're coming into this magic window right now.
Absolutely accurate.
Well, let me. So I have I took the liberty of putting a Zango logo in amongst as the 10th billion-dollar company, because I think it's arguably safe to say that the indicators are that we could say that, wouldn't you think?
Well, if you look at the landscape of network marketing, you look at the horizons in the landscape in the last 5 years. I mean, there's no other company that would even dare to compare to Zango. There's only one exception to that statement, and that company's been in lawsuit after lawsuit for illegal claims. So you'd have to really kind of do some, put some salt into that statement. But the Zango's, as far as emerging as this decade's billion-dollar giant, there's not a close second. Everyone says they're the next big thing. Starbucks and Maxwell House both say that they have the best coffee, and they both say they have the best companies. But once again, you look at the numbers and the facts, and Maxwell House doesn't hold a candle to Starbucks. Neither does Kmart and Walmart, and they sound the exact same. So, don't get confused and don't get lost in the hype. I remember when I used to compete against Zango, I listened to your guys' conference calls. I was kind of a student of the industry, and I would listen to what they were saying, and I remember thinking to myself, they're just excited. And I would look at the facts, and I remember I got to a point where I couldn't look someone in the eye in my company. If they asked me about Zango, I couldn't look them in the eye and tell them we had a better opportunity, because I knew that the fact was we didn't, flat out. And, man, that's a pretty, nauseous place to be in. So I ultimately left because of that. If I can't look someone in the eye and tell them they're in the best place, if they decide to do network marketing, there's not a better place in the industry than what they're in, then our loyalty is to our people. And we have absolutely the best vehicle, and all indicators are that we'll have it for the next probably 15 to 20 years because of the things they're rolling out to help people hit all of their personal, their financial, and their career objectives is with this company.
Well, let's look at something from the past that could help people get their head around that. With the Forever Living growth chart here, Aloe was a new idea. Aloe was a new category of product that was introduced by Forever Living. And you've got some insights onto a little bit of the history here. Why don't you go ahead with that?
Well, Forever Living obviously is what a phenomenal company. They do over $2 billion in sales. They're one of only a couple companies in our industry that do over $2 billion. Aloe was this great idea. Came to market in 1978. Aloe now, there's not anyone that we know that has an issue with Aloe. No one balks at you if you talk about Aloe. No one's got an issue. No one wants to see 15 scientific papers and 7 medical studies. They're cool with it. Aloe's part of our culture. In my estimation, you look at 6 years into their growth, they're doing between 100 to 150 million a year. You guys, 5.5 years into Zango's growth, they've 3 or 4 times those numbers with a different botanical, this mangosteen. The mangosteen botanical, what was interesting with Aloe is about their 5 or 6 year range, they introduced their nutritional line and their skincare line. And their numbers, as you can see, began to go absolutely through the roof. The same thing happened with Herbalife. Herbalife went into their second wave. Herbalife was a thermogenic weight loss company. When they introduced their nutrition line, their numbers about 4 or 5, 6 years into their company's growth, their numbers went through the roof. The same thing happened with Nu Skin. Nu Skin was founded in '84. Then they, as the name would imply, Nu Skin was personal care products. When they launched their nutritional line, it's now one of their largest lines. Is their, it was first IDM, but now their Pharmanex line. Unbelievable growth. And so these companies, once again, 7 of the 9 are nutritional and or personal care product companies. They're based on those. That's where the sweet spot is in network marketing, is nutritional and skincare, particularly when you have things that are category creating, standalone products, first-to-market products that are branded well. You can absolutely set yourself up with those products and those companies.
That's awesome. Well, I throw up a little chart here just to give a comparison since we're putting numbers up. It's important to recognize, just to get your head around, I'm not a numbers guy, a business numbers person, but you don't have to be much of one to realize $1 billion with a B in sales in a 60-month period out of the gate, puts us in a category of the top 10 growth companies ever in the history of America, not just direct sales. So there is a little history here to worth considering when projecting the future. So it's not just all, talk and wishful thinking. There's some real substance to what we're saying here, based on not only the past but the trends of what's already happened in business and the patterns that have been set before. Well, I wanted to put up this income slide because I want people to realize that these are average numbers. I don't think many companies would be willing to divulge their actual earnings of distributors because they wouldn't really want people to know, because it would kind of burst the bubble, so to speak. But people actually do make money here, and the thing to keep in mind is that these are the numbers that are staggering numbers that happened in the first 5 years, arguably the hardest 5 years to build a business in Zengel. And the numbers are already staggering.
If I could jump in, Eric, that's not arguably. I mean, you got to figure you have a new idea, a new concept, no infrastructure, very little tools, very little support. You're coming to people with something they've never heard of before, ever. And the first 5 years, that's why most companies fail, 96%, is because the first 5 years are the brutal 5 years. It's like the pioneers. People always say the pioneers get rich. The pioneers are the ones with the arrows in their back. It's the next generation that, get wealthy. So you're absolutely correct.
Well, so when you look at those numbers, just realize that not only are those extremely high in our industry, but I can only imagine what's going to happen in the next 5-year period with all the things that we're adding to the plate here. So part of the reason behind this is there's some brilliant architecture to this thing from the founders, and I'm sure you were looking into them as a part of the major piece of the puzzle when you were doing your analysis.
The first thing you look for, whenever you're analyzing a company, the first thing you look for is the 20 to 25-year track record of the people that own and operate the company. And I don't want to look at their resume because everyone looks good from resume. I want to know good and bad, 20 years back, cross-reference, background check on these guys. And these gentlemen's track record, besides being impeccable prior to this, certainly has been impeccable during this, and they all ran multi-$100 million and up companies prior to this. So they're selling, the only thing you really need to know about the founders is they're not learning on the job. They're, when the mist comes and they're selling in the ocean and it's dark and foggy, they've already been there and they've done that, they've navigated. You don't want people looking around with a wide eye saying, what do we do next? These guys have been there and done that.
The other thing that was interesting to me, I was just out at the corporate office last week, and every time I'm there, it just kind of boggles my mind. We actually had flown in a pretty high-level prospect from California and pretty astute business person. He was walking around the building, and suddenly it occurred to him, he stopped and he said, pretty amazing to think that 5 years ago none of this existed. Now he is walking through a 150,000-square-foot building with, teams of employees, and there's the Singapore employee area and the Canadian area, and just kind of surreal to think of how fast the things come together. And that's another indicator of the foresight and know-how of the founders, because you can't throw together a 300,000 square feet of office space with 700 employees in a 5-year period of time, learning on the job, like you mentioned. Well, one of the things that the outside business world is clearly recognized is the leadership of the company. Outside of our industry, are getting a lot of accolades. A recent one was Aaron Garrity, our CEO, won CEO of the Year about 2-3 months ago now, competing against over 2,000 other CEOs from the state of Utah. and the year prior to that, won Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And he's got a phrase here, and I'll just comment on it quick, and then you can go into this a little bit more, Justin. But he says, during our first 5 years, Zengo's achieved success never before seen in the history of direct sales. We're only getting started. Our next 5 years will mark the greatest global expansion and market development undertaken by a single company in the history of our industry. Now, that's probably arguable to say it's probably one of the greatest in the history of any industry. The indicators could be, but certainly within the space of network marketing. And I say when you take someone like that and you base who it's coming from and the track history that he can stand on to say that kind of comment, that's something you need to take some weight and take some stock in that.
Yeah, he had two insights when he said that, at least two. He had more, but he had at least two. One is he had the foundation of at that time, $1 billion brand. And you guys, let me just throw out one idea here. Zengo's a multi-billion-dollar market brand, their appraisal value. You look at Vitamin Water, they're, 7-year-old company, one profitable year, $700 million, and they're bought by Coke for $4.4 billion. You have Zengo, who's profitable in their third month. They've done $1 billion in business. They've been profitable the entire time, and they have this engine of this unbelievable mangosteen botanical. I mean, the market value, the appraisal value of this company would just be astronomically multiple billions. So he had the foundation to say that, the platform to say that from $1 billion platform. And then he said he had the insight that at the time none of us had, which is, $2 billion brands that he knew they were rolling out. And I'm sure that's just the beginning. But those $2 billion brands he knew were coming down the pipes. That's why he could make statements of this magnitude, saying, if you think the first 5 years were impressive, wait till you see the next 5.
Yeah, it's truly reassuring to know the level of layers of thought that has gone into this before us, and we find out after the fact, we're like, wow, they really thought of this long in advance before we knew. It's pretty amazing. So if we look at that, outside of the network marketing industry, a great example recently is Apple, and as a major force and a huge brand out there. Why don't you comment on that a little bit, Justin?
Well, whenever you have an established billion-dollar company, and that doesn't happen very often, but whenever you have an established billion-dollar company that launches a billion-dollar brand, you create, the most compelling windows in all of marketing. And you say, well, why? Two reasons. One is you have the track record, the infrastructure, the reputation and the backing of a billion-dollar brand, but you're on the front end of the rollout of billion-dollar brand. So when Apple launched, Apple was an established company. They launched the iPod. Now, there is not a company in the world that wouldn't have given their left leg to have the technology, the patent, the foresight, the insight of the iPod. Not one. They launched that iPod. It revolutionized. It was a market-creating standalone product. If Apple were to get rid of all their products and just keep just that one, they would have built a massive multi-billion-dollar company. And then Apple doesn't stop there, Eric. Then they roll out the iPhone. Same thing. Product category creating, market creating, standalone product. If they were to get rid of everything besides just the iPhone, they'd have a huge billion-dollar brand. And in Apple's case, they had both plus their prior products. Such compelling times are created in marketing when you have those situations when companies have the foresight and the reputation of a billion-dollar company, and then launch. You're on the front end of billion-dollar brand.
So bring you back home to the Zengo story in relation to that.
Ultimately, folks, we have what will ultimately be the most successful botanical the world's ever known. Aloe currently holds that title in two ways. One is how much business they've done out the Aloe botanical, and then the second thing about Aloe is the amount of people whose lives is dramatically affected in a positive way. Our product does everything plus that Aloe would ever do for someone's health, and our business will do everything times 10 of what Aloe's done from the marketing or business perspective, barring things continue to roll out as heretofore. So you have Zengo come to market with a billion-dollar brand, this product. I love when people in try and shoot down our product, and I say to them, would your company take our product? If we were to give you the rights to our product, and they say, well, of course they would. And they also love the product. There's not a company in all of network marketing, and for that matter, traditional business, that wouldn't give their left leg to have the Zengo juice, to have the patents, to have the brand, to have the efficacy of the product. There's not a company that wouldn't give everything they had to have it. And so Zango, here they've established this multi-billion-dollar established brand on the back end, and they roll out a standalone, first-to-market, category-creating 365 multivitamin, multi-mineral, CoQ10, and multi-omega complex that, guys, we could create a billion-dollar company on just 365. And then they roll out a 20-year patented world-class technology to skincare that no one else in the world has. We have a 20-year patent on it, that we, as a third brand, that we could build a multiple billion-dollar business on just Glimpse. As a matter of fact, Eric, and this is my own opinion, and it's just my from, you know, kind of what I'm seeing happen, I believe Zango will do $1 billion in business from the time they roll Glimpse out in the next 24 to 36 months with just Glimpse. And if my numbers are correct, they'll do it probably more upwards of, you know, about 30 months into it. Now, with just Glimpse, that doesn't include the Zango Juice or the 365. So we have such a compelling time. There's, you know, as you're sharing this message with people, to be on the front end of two different billion-dollar brands, launched not by, you know, people that think they're going to do well, launched by an established billion-dollar company. Folks, we have the most compelling window that network marketing's ever seen, and we have it right here in the next 5 months of network marketing. If I could leave one last quick story, Eric, and then any last insights, we'll get off the phone. A dear friend of mine, his next-door neighbor is a gentleman named Truman Hunt. Truman Hunt is the president of Nu Skin. Nu Skin was the last billion-dollar company our industry produced. My friend had been the senior vice president of 3 different billion-dollar companies. They were all traditional companies. He was a senior vice president. He retired from his third one, sold his third one, and Truman said to him, "Hey, Dow, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do for a living?" And Dow said, "I don't know. I'm kind of open to my next option," and so on. Truman said, "You should come look at what we're doing at Nu Skin." Now, this is in 2001. This is 17 years after Nu Skin launched. Nu Skin at this time is an established billion-dollar brand. And Dow says, "Network marketing? I don't know if that's my thing." And Truman says, "I'll tell you what, Dow. We have 2 people in our company that are brand new that made $150,000 each last month. And I don't care where you come from. That's, it's good money no matter where you are." And Dow says, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." He goes, "We're launching this new technology. It's a new brand. We're really excited about it. It's a great time. You should come check this thing out." Long story short, Dow went and checked it out, met their top earner, ended up joining. Now, he told me later, he said, "Justin," he goes, "Truman left out 2 key points." He said, "Everything he told me was true. He just left out 2 key points. One is those 2 gentlemen that made $150,000 each, those 2 gentlemen were major players in Herbalife that had retired, sat on their incomes for years. And when they saw what this established billion-dollar company was doing, this brand they were rolling out, they came out of retirement to help them roll it out. And the second thing they rolled out, that he said he forgot to tell him, was they'd both been working for 6 months prior, doing basically, in essence, pre-launch meetings, home meetings, hotel meetings, the whole thing, 3-way calls, building. And there's 3 things we can pull from this, guys. The last billion-dollar company our industry produced was Nu Skin. And in 17 years later, they have this established billion-dollar company rolling out a new technology, a new brand, and it pulls corporate executives who have been extremely high-level executives into the industry for the first time. It pulls world-class network marketers out of retirement that are sitting on huge incomes. And 3, and probably the most important thing for all of us to apply, is those gentlemen did not wait for the launch of that thing. Those guys were building and we're building and we're building and we're sharing the story and we're informing people and we're calling people and we're holding meetings and 3-way calls as fast and as hard and as quick as they could with as much information as they had. They didn't have a lot, they had a little. But as much as they had, they were sharing with people saying, "Hey, we're rolling something out that you need to know about. I don't have that much information yet. I'll get it to you as it comes, but you need to get in this thing and let's get going." And those guys built massive incomes. When they flipped that switch and rolled out that brand, those guys had massive checks going, waiting for them. And those guys still to this day have massive, incomes and businesses there in Nu Skin and are phenomenal distributors. So we have a very compelling time from a marketing position.
Justin, I almost hung up on you while you were saying that to go make some calls because you fried my circuits. Well, the next, in addition to the rollout of new brands, the other intoxicating part of the story is, we've got 90-plus countries yet to roll out. And long-term, when I was in Italy a couple weeks ago, Mark Walker, who's in charge of the international expansion for Zango, he said eventually the North American market will be the smallest market segment for Zango, and he's got industry numbers to show why they would suspect that. So you add that to the mix, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I live, in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, but I guarantee you, people know people know people, and it's a global world, and the internet can connect us to anyone in the world. I will have a global international business. There's no question about it, and probably in every country we do business in at some point.
Absolutely. So will everyone on this call that applies himself.
Absolutely. So that's compelling. So Justin used the word the sweet spot earlier, and I say that's really where we are right now. And, every day is like a week is like a month, and a month is like a year. There's an opportunity cost to the window we're in right now, and we don't want to squander it, and you don't want to be this close to the fire and not feel the heat. And so my encouragement is, it's summertime, and, if there's any place you get tempted to lay off the throttle, is it's during the summer. But, I'd say skip a few extra rounds of golf and a little less softball, and build yourself a future where you can golf on Pebble Beach whenever you want, and go there as many times as you want in a year. So the time is now. I think the case has been made. We're glad you guys are along for the ride with us, and we're certainly going for it. Someone at the corporate who's got a few more years under their belt than Justin and I called us the young lions of Zango, and I said, well, it's not only the young lions that are going to do it, but the people who've got the hunger like a lion are going to do it for sure. And so Zango offers, it's the whole package. I mean, it's family time, it's world travel, it's having fun and social events and everything, combined with a company that's actually going to back up all the promises of the industry. So I think we're pretty safe to put our hearts out there and go after it. And I just wanted to thank you, Justin, for taking your time. I know you're probably got another training to go into as soon as we're done, because you're in the hunt and you're not wasting a minute of this timing. So I'll let everyone else say goodbye, and thanks, Justin, for coming on, and we'll catch you guys next time. I'll open up the lines.
Thank you so much, Justin. Fabulous. Thank you. Great call. We're real excited.
Fantastic call. This is the last name.
Goodbye.
Oh, Yvette, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Great information.
Thank you
So much.
lose you. You hang up and I'll call you back, okay?
Okay.
Hang up. I'm going to flash over and see if I can get you.
Okay.
Great job.
Head upstairs.
Go Zango.
Bye.
Go Zango. Bye.
Good. He's signing out.
Thank you. Thank you from Miami. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Girl from Ohio, thank you.
Thank you from San Diego.
Awesome. Go Zango.
Zango from Nebraska.